My mom just finished 9th in the European Women's Rapid Chess Championship, and in this video, I'm gonna show you how that happened. Because I'm happy for her, and I'm very proud. And she wasn't in any way like a favorite to win the whole thing, but she only got half a point less than the number one. So she did really well. And the final game of her tournament was completely amazing as she found this amazing tactic that just led to her opponent losing the game. So I'm going to show you how all of this happened and how the game went. So in round number 9, my mom was playing against Harriet Hunt, who's an international master from England, rated a bit over 2300. My mom, well, Pia Cramling, she's a grandmaster, and she had the black pieces in this game. Now, what's funny is that I actually played against Harriet Hunt in the Blitz, in the European Women's Blitz, the day before, and I'm not going to tell you how it went because you're going to have to watch the video, but I'll show you the video on this channel about that as well. So anyways, my mom had the black pieces, and at this point, she had 7 points out of 10, and obviously, if she won this, she would end up with 8 points out of 11, which would give her a fantastic score. Now, Harriet Hunt has always been a really strong woman from England. She's an international master. She was extremely good when she was younger. I think she became like shared first in the British under 14 for both guys and girls. So she was, you know, always extremely good, and she's still a really strong player, but I think now she works with something else. She doesn't only work with chess. And yeah, and then we have my mom, who is 61, and she's still going strong. She's 61. Okay, I panicked a bit. Anyways, so Harriet went with the move e4, and my mom replied c5. We play the same stuff, me and my mom. We are mother and daughter. So knight f3, knight c6, and now she played bishop b5, which was actually what she played against me too, I think. I went g6 in that game, but my mom went for the move e6 instead. And the idea of this was actually that she wanted to go knight e7, and now she was saying, hey, if you take my knight, I will take back with my knight, and you will not destroy my pawn structure. And now the idea for black becomes to go a6, kick this bishop away, and then start expanding here on the queen side. So she went b3 to fianchetto the bishop, and now my mom went a6, and now actually she took. Now my mom took with the knight, and the bishop moved, saying, if this bishop moves, then I'm going to take your pawn. So my mom actually went for the move f6, just to prevent this bishop from capturing this. But this looks a little bit funny, because now all of a sudden, you're basically kind of weakening your king. So Harriet went for the move knight h4, and the idea was to go queen h5 check, and if g6, she wanted to be able to capture the pawn on g6, as we can see that this pawn would not be able to capture back as the rook is hanging. So here my mom very calmly just played g6 as well, literally just stopping all of Harriet's ideas. So Harriet said, you know what, I'm going to keep going. So she went f4, still trying to take advantage of the fact that this king is in the middle of the board. She might want to go e5, she might want to go f5, she might want to just do anything to try to destroy this king, but especially f5 right now looks very annoying, as if takes, once again, this queen is going to go to h5. But my mom very calmly just played bishop d6, developing the bishop. Now this looks a little bit funny because it's allowing the move f5, which Harriet played, and well, she still had 12 minutes on the clock. You guys can see that this was a rapid game, so both players had 15 minutes in the beginning of the game, a 10-second increment per move, and they'd only spent 3 minutes up until this position. So here my mom went for the move knight e5. The idea is that she's defending this pawn. So now if pawn takes, well, then pawn takes. And let's say that Harriet would go bishop takes knight because she wants to really win this pawn. Well, what happens then is that this rook is hanging. And actually, not only that, but if something like knight takes g6, there's all kinds of weird things over here that could potentially become very dangerous for her. So knight e5 is a really good move to defend everything. And the question is now, what does she do? So she spent some time thinking and ended up playing knight c3, just developing the knight, but now stopping this bishop from sniping down the board. So now my mom went for the move b5. Very good move. She wants to fianchetto this bishop. She wants to place this bishop on b7. But not only that, she also is getting a lot of space here on the queen side. So queen e2 was played. My mom played bishop b7. Now the knight went to e1 because, well, I guess Harriet thought that the knight had a better future in other squares than what it had on c3. Plus, it's reviving this bishop. So queen e7... maybe allowing for actually the king to castle queenside, which looks a bit crazy, but which makes a lot of sense to later start attacking over here. And now a4, kind of signalizing, okay, Pia, you wanna castle on the queenside? I'm not gonna let you. I'm gonna put fear into you so that you can't castle there. But now what happens is that with the queen on e7, there was actually a whole point with this move, which wasn't just to castle queenside, but it was that now if, you know, my mom would go something like g takes f5 and this pawn would disappear. If queen h5, there's actually queen f7, and now this king wouldn't be weak at all. So she ended up taking here on f5, threatening a very sneaky move. And at this point, Harriet had 8 minutes on the clock. She ended up spending half of that time. She ended up spending 4 minutes on her next move, and her next move was actually a mistake. And the move she ended up doing, which changed everything in this game, was e takes f5, which looks very logical. I take a pawn, you take the pawn back, equal material. But no, this move in this position actually almost loses the game on the spot, because my mom has this amazing tactic, knight f3 check, which she literally only spent like 15 seconds on. Like, she spent no time on this. She immediately played it. This is, I don't know the exact term, but kind of a discovered check. Not really. It's not a discovered check, but basically what is happening is that there's a check on the king, but now not only is there a check on the king, the knight has moved, which means that the queen is hanging on e2. So by moving this knight and forcing the king to move, or for this knight to be captured, my mom will be able to capture her queen the move after. Now, in this position, the queen cannot take the knight because then the bishop will simply take it back. The knight is defended by the bishop, which is a key aspect of this. If the bishop wasn't here, then this move wouldn't work. But because it's defending, this simply wins the queen. And here, she ended up playing rook takes f3. And after this, my mom took her queen. She went for rook e3 check. And now she simply took the rook. And in this position, we can see that my mom is an exchange up. So she didn't win a full queen, but she's now up material. And at this level, this is a lot of material to be up. My mom has a rook for a knight, basically. So this is now very comfortable in the endgame, but of course the game is not over. She still needs to play well. So the game continued like this. Harriet took the pawn, and then after my mom took back, she went g3 because this knight doesn't really have a lot of places to go to. But I mean, this knight is literally not going anywhere. Like, the knight will have to go to g2. It's not a good piece. My mom went bishop e5, now trying to trade pieces, because generally when you're up material, the more pieces you trade, the better it's going to be for you, because your opponent is going to have less pieces to defend their position with. So it's very smart to trade pieces, which is what she did. The knight moved up. Now my mom started getting her king active, which is also very good to do in endgames. Rook f1, rook f8, which maybe looks a bit weird because she's giving up this pawn. But yeah, she's not really, because after knight takes g6, there's rook g8, and now this knight is hanging, and if it moves, then the other knight is hanging too. So now g5 was played. The knight had to go back to g2. I mean, my mom here, she was being ruthless, honestly. She went bishop f3, threatening this knight. And the question is, where does this knight go? The knight didn't go anywhere, and his friend went to e3. Now king d7, c4, takes. Now this pawn is going to become weak. Rook a b8 to place the rook on b4 and capture it. Knight f2, rook b2, threatening the pawn. And here, after rook f1 and the move bishop c6, the best move in the position, Harriet Hunt resigned because my mom is now going to pick up this pawn. She's going to pick up this pawn. The knight doesn't have a future. If the knight moves, well, then they will trade rooks and it'll be an easy win for my mom. She'll take this pawn, she'll push this, and it'll become a queen. And it was just completely over. And when my mom won this game, she ended up getting 8 points out of 11 in the European Women Rapid Chess Championship and ended up therefore becoming 9th. She had the same points as number 5, but because of tie breaks, she ended up 9th, which was still a fantastic result. She got top 10, and she was only half a point away from number 1, who got 8.5 points. So this was a fantastic tournament for her, and I was so happy to see that she performed so well. It was a bit funny. Well, it wasn't funny, but I played this tournament and I ended up getting pretty sick, so I had to go to the hospital, which meant that I withdrew after round number 3. I was doing great. I was on 2 out of 3 points. I'd won 2 games in a row, and I was more excited than ever to keep on playing. But I had to go to the hospital, and then the day after, I flew home because I was sick and I wanted to get checked here in Sweden. And the day that I left, my mom played the best chess day of all days that we were there. And I just thought, you know, was I making my mom play worse chess? No. She was always say no. I joked about it with her. She was like, no, sweetie, of course it had nothing to do with that. But I was like, Mom, you literally just won almost all games the day that I left. But anyways, that's a different story. The winner of this tournament ended up being Grandmaster Anna Ushenina from Ukraine. So big congrats to the new European Women's Rapid Chess Champion. Say congrats to my mom in the comments because she's gonna get very happy. And yeah, 2 more chess adventures. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in my next one. Bye!